He kōna ipurangi tēnei nā te reo irirangi o Aotearoa.
Nau mai, whakaronga mai ki te Aotai whenua. Welcome to Country Life. I'm Sally Round.
Great to have your company. Ko Janina Schwaneke TNA. Today, what can New Zealand red meat producers expect from the huge potential market that is India?
I'll be taking you to an old post office in Taranaki. It's been glammed up into a small hotel. And while they're not stamping letters here anymore, there are still connections being made.
Later, Otago landowners are stoked to get pest control support from a project focused on enhancing and protecting the landscape.
But first, to a look at what's been making headlines on the Rural News Desk this week. And Janina, it's good news for embattled dairy company Synlait, which has had a major funding boost.
That's right. Shareholders have voted in favour of a $130 million loan from its major shareholder, China's Bright Dairy. The loan's been needed to repay debt to the banks by Monday.
And a major chicken company's growing. It's just bought 3 dairy farms in Waikato.
Agrite already operates in Australia and New Zealand. They have a farm south of Christchurch and another in Matamata, but they've just bought 240 hectares of land in Paeroa for $10.5 million, which they're going to turn into a broiler chicken farm. Agrite Chief Executive Daniel Bryant says there's growing demand.
The major processors being Inghams and Tegel drive their capacity demand, and they've offered up capacity to Agrite to add to their already in place growing capacity around the country.
Now, there's been quite a bit of science news in the primary sector this week. Let's start with this project trialling new technologies for farming finfish.
Yes, so the Plant and Food Research Project has been granted consent to go ahead in the Marlborough Sounds. It will allow scientists to ramp up their trials in a more open ocean environment. Program leader Dr. Susie Black says the proposed 3.6 hectare site is within an existing mussel farm with bigger waves and stronger currents.
First up to bat is we'll be trialling some of our cultured snapper inside the fish enclosure, and that will be during summer this year.
Now, researchers are also looking to trial growing genetically modified ryegrass outdoors.
They're hoping to get permission from the Environmental Protection Authority. If given approval, it'll be the first time in over 10 years that GMO trials have been done outside. GMO research and the products that result from it are heavily regulated here, something the current government has vowed to change. Ag research plant breeder and scientist John Caradis wants to test genetically modified ryegrass that is more resistant to pests in a real-world environment.
There's been a lot of indoor trials undertaken against the main insect pests that we have here in New Zealand. But my experience is that while they're a good guide, they don't often tell you the whole story.
Now, a new ag-tech system aims to reduce reliance on chemicals used for weeding.
Yes, well, Map and Zap uses artificial intelligence programming to identify pest plants. That's the mapping part. It then uses a laser to zap and kill the weed. Founder Dr. Kumars Gamkar says it allows the weeding to be very targeted.
How it works is that it uses AI, the artificial intelligence, to detect weeds at species level and even identify weeds that you want to kill from weeds that you don't want to kill. And then that AI guides the laser to the exact position of the weed, and laser just kills that weed.
Meanwhile, the Environmental Protection Authority says it will not reassess the use of glyphosate. It's an active ingredient in weed killers such as Roundup. An advocacy group, Environmental Law Initiative, asked the EPA to reassess its use, saying new information about negative effects had come to light. But the EPA's Chris Hill says investigations show reassessment isn't justified and the risk of using the product hasn't changed. He says it's still safe to use products with glyphosate if the existing application rules are followed.
Well, this next is an interesting piece, following on from our story last time about agrivoltaics. Lincoln University's building a solar farm that will also grow horticulture crops.
That's right. The Lincoln University Energy Farm is still currently under review for resource consent, but they hope to trial growing crops like blueberries and raunui berries in the rows between the solar panels. They're hoping to establish 2,800 panels on a 4-hectare site near the campus. Project lead, Dr. Shannon Page, says growing high-value crops among solar panels could yield better returns for landowners.
Look, we would just really want to explore what are the opportunities for farmers, for landowners to really maximise the value of their land with solar in them. Sheep grazing is just but one option. So we're exploring a wide range of crops, from berries to vegetable crop, really exploring the potential of agricultural productivity within solar farms.
Now, hundreds of millions of dollars are said to still be needed to help Hawke's Bay growers recovering from Cyclone Gabrielle.
That's right. That's in a new report which has found the region's hort sector needs an extra $410 million. That's mostly for replanting and land improvement, as well as for ongoing orchard cleanup. Apples and Pears New Zealand Chair Leslie Wilson says it costs about $250,000 to replant just 1 hectare. The work's expected to take another 3 years due to a shortage of replacement apple trees.
The Hawke's Bay and Tairāwhiti and the other regions that were hit, the orcharding is an integral part of the community, a huge employer in those regions.
And good news at the supermarket, fruit and veggie prices have had their biggest drop in over 60 years.
Yes, they've dropped over 16% in the past year. That's the biggest fall since Stats New Zealand records began. It's helped overall food prices decrease about 0.3%, the first time the total food price has fallen in 6 years. Meat, poultry and fish prices fell about 1.4% in the year to June, while the average price of a 1 litre bottle of olive oil has jumped 50% in the past year to $20. Now that's due to a global shortage.
Big jump there, and we're hearing of a relatively poor season in New Zealand, which won't help those prices on the shelf. Now, just finally, Janina, a new pilot program aims to teach university students all about the wonders of wool.
Launching later this month, wool dynamics will be taught at Victoria University, AUT, Otago Polytech, Massey University and the Arda Institute. The Campaign for Wool General Manager, Cara Biggs, says it will allow them to connect with emerging creative minds before they enter the workforce and teach them all about wool.
We're looking at expansion. We know that education is the future. We know that the future of wool is around these young people who are coming through now. It's getting out to as many young minds as possible.
And the 56th New Zealand Young Farmer Competition kicked off in Hamilton this week, with the winner set to be announced on Saturday night, so keep an ear out. And that's the rural news.
Good luck to all of them. Thanks, Janina.
You're listening to Country Life on RNZ National, 101 FM.
New Zealand sheep and beef farmers may be wondering whether there's much potential in the huge Indian market for our meat products. A Pew Research Centre survey in 2021 showed 8 in 10 Indians limit meat in their diets and 4 in 10 consider themselves vegetarian. We already export logs, fruit and nuts and a small amount of sheep meat to the world's 5th largest economy, population 1.3 billion. But as far as meat in general goes, there are obviously some challenges. Our guest this week says strategic thinking will turn those challenges into opportunity.
My name is Surma Karapiva. I'm the Chief Executive of the Meat Industry Association. I think the Indian market is a hugely exciting place. It is growing by population and wealth. The middle class is clearly growing exponentially, and it is said to be the 3rd largest market in the very near future. So that's all very exciting numbers, and it provides a lot of great opportunities for New Zealand red meat as well as other products.
But challenges as well. One big challenge.
Absolutely, challenges. But, opportunities come from challenges.
The big challenge being that the Indian market is not a beef-eating market.
It's not a beef-eating market, that's true, but it is a sheep meat-eating market. And we have made some inroads into that market on a small quantity and volume, but clearly we have tested the appetite for New Zealand sheep meat in that market, and it's good. So the challenge for us is to develop the relationships to grow that opportunity for our sheep meat producers and exporters.
What are some of the products that you can see New Zealand offering to the Indian market?
Well, obviously sheep meat, first and foremost, but from our industry's perspective, we produce a wide range of products. It's not just the meat that we produce and export. We also have a range of co-products, or what we call the 5th quarter, and they include things like meat and bone meal that is used in animal feed and fertiliser, tallow that is used in Singapore, for example, for the production of biofuel, pet food, which is hugely an important category and growing in value, and of course blood for pharmaceutical serums and pharmaceutical medicine production. And I'm really excited about the pharmaceutical angle because New Zealand blood products are highly regarded globally because of our disease-free status for our animals. And we know India, for example, is very focused on becoming the pharmacy of the world for generic medicine, and I think we've got a real opportunity to provide input into that and support them to achieve their goals while at the same time obviously achieving our own aspirations to trade with India.
What do you know of the demographics of the market that will mean opportunity for New Zealand?
Well, we know both from the Indian diaspora here in New Zealand and from being in the market that there is a lack of iron in the diet, in the Indian diet. I can't say why that is, but it does exist. And so the opportunities that we see, particularly for young women and mothers and young babies, is to work with the health authorities in India to introduce more iron-rich, nutrient-rich foods in the diet to help their population's nutrient needs. Red meat is well known for being a very nutrient-dense product, and when consumed as part of a balanced diet, it does tick a lot of those nutrient boxes for the population at large.
And the growing middle class, I guess that must bring some opportunity in terms of how much of a barrier is the lack of a free trade agreement towards achieving these aims?
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, a free trade agreement is a tool. It is a very important tool. It will take off the tariff, hopefully, if we get to the negotiating table. But with the deteriorating global environment, we're seeing a lot of regulatory non-tariff barriers crop up, and they're the ones that sit behind the tariff wall. So the free trade agreement will quickly deal to a tariff, but unfortunately the NTBs will remain. And that's really quite challenging to address and dismantle. At the moment, we really do need to focus on growing that relationship, becoming familiar with India, and for the Indians to become familiar with New Zealand, growing that level of trust so that once a free trade agreement has been negotiated and implemented, we're less likely to face those regulatory non-tariff barriers.
And I was speaking there to Surma Karapiva, the Chief Executive of the Meat Industry Association. I caught up with her at this year's Primary Industries Summit in Wellington.
Now, a story with connections across time and space. Sally, you're taking us to the small Taranaki town of Eltham to meet Maria and David Hancock.
Yes, the couple converted the town's grand old post office into a small hotel a couple of years ago, and they named its main suite after a woman who lived in the town early last century. When they found out about her war relief efforts, they were inspired to start their own war relief project for the people of Ukraine. David, what are you doing there?
We're just cooking up another batch of Helena Barnard's biscuits.
Tell me about Helena Barnard. Who was she?
Well, when we came to work on the old post office here, we decided we were going to build a luxury suite in the front of it, and we hunted around town for someone with a bit of style, and she shone out because she baked these little ginger nuts about the size of a shilling for her sons who were going up on mountain trips. And then when the war started, the First World War this is, she started baking those biscuits and sending them to the troops in Gallipoli initially. And over 2 world wars, she baked over 4.5 tons.
When she was sending the bickies to her sons and to the soldiers in the wartime, she was packing these ginger nuts in newspaper from Taranaki. In the same time, when they got the bickies, they got the news from Taranaki. We read a letter about a soldier in the war. He said, when I got those bickies, I just felt home with somebody from my place.
This is Maria and David's place now. Maria is originally from Transylvania, part of Romania, but she left as a refugee during the communist regime of Nicolae Ceausescu. More on that later. David spent many years in Australia as a photographer. After naming their hotel suite after Helena, David and Maria felt obliged to start a similar project when war broke out in Europe again, this time after Russia invaded Ukraine. For 2 years now, the Hancocks have been baking the cookies, packaging them up and selling them.
We started making them here in the kitchen and sending the funds, and they went quite well. I mean, we sent about $3,000 to Ukraine last year, so, we knew it was going to be a bit of a long-term commitment, and it has been.
The New Zealand charity they've been working with, Relief Aid, even took some of the biscuits to people in Ukraine.
One lady just broke down and cried, and she said it just helped us so much to know that people on the other side of the world were thinking about us.
We had a photo from that lady with a packet in her hands and the smile.
And her house had been destroyed the day before. She had nothing.
For Maria, the suffering going on in Ukraine is close to her own heart. She knows too well the prospect of life under an authoritarian regime.
I said in my mind, I will never leave my country. I had a lovely life. I did exactly what I wanted in those periods of time because I was privileged. But at the time when they wanted to take me and give me a fantastic job at that time for Romania and for my nursing, I had to become a communist member, a member of the Communist Party, which absolutely was a no-no. And in 3 days, I told my ex-husband, we have to leave. If you want to come, you're welcome. If not, I just go by myself.
So you fled?
And that's it, in 3 days, yes.
You fled?
Yes. It's just because I couldn't accept the idea of me being a communist.
And your father worked in the regime himself, didn't he?
Yes. My father was a retired colonel. Sometimes I ask him, why did you fight for this communism? He said, because I was very young, I didn't know what that means. He didn't know at that time. And he was in the Second World War when he was a kid. He was just about 20.
The baking of the biscuits, the relief efforts that you've done for Ukraine, this must have come also from your own experiences?
Yes. Yes, not so much my own experience. Much more the people who lived around me, who just before I ran away, they had a very hard life. Everything was rationed, like they had a kilogram of meat per month, probably 10 eggs, a liter of oil. Didn't apply to me, though, because I was doing my shopping in Hungary.
You were able to get across the border easily.
Yes.
Being relatively privileged, I guess.
I was privileged, and I had a kind of different path because I was working in radiology out of the city. And just the population out of the city could have this little pass. I was going every week and doing my shopping in Hungary, which didn't apply for the other people. Yes, paid twice as much. But in my spare time, I was sewing for the high society of our city. And I was asking as much money as I wanted. So I had 3 times the salary of nurse, so I could have the money to do whatever I wanted. And yes, I did have a beautiful life, but not everyone.
And you understand, you know what people might be going through in Ukraine?
I understand very well. It was very hard even to talk at home or in the street. People, they were keeping their head down. Their faces were grey, and you couldn't find a smile on their faces. It's because you didn't have the freedom to watch what you want to watch, to read what you want to read.
You were telling me that you even had to go and have private conversations out of your house.
Yes, because the televisions, they were coming from the factory with a microphone inside without people knowing. So Securitate was going and listening whatever where they wanted, or they had certain families where they thought, oh, these are against us, and they were listening. So the second night, Securitate came and just took you away and put you in jail. And you never know if you come out or ever or no. Me and my friends and my father, actually, we were going in the cars if we had something to talk. We never discuss anything against the regime inside the home. And they were lied in front of their eyes, and all the radios and television, they tell you just about how fantastic and fabulous is the president. You didn't have any other time. So, yeah.
And you fled via Hungary to Austria and then eventually to Australia.
Yeah, we stayed in Austria for a year. We became political asylums and we had residents for Austria, but I never wanted to stop there. And we chose Australia.
And you ended up in New Zealand, so what a journey.
New Zealand, it's a bit similar with the climate in my country. And David, it's a New Zealand person. I mean, born in New Zealand, so and 1 year we came here and I was impressed by the beauty of this country. So I said, why are we living in Australia? Let's move. He was absolutely d'accord with me, and straight away we start the procedures.
The old post office formed a relatively grand part of Eltham's streetscape early last century. Together with the old bank building next door, it signalled prosperity and stability in a rapidly developing region. What was it like back in Helena Barnard's day, do you think?
Well, they had the first tar laid in here in New Zealand. Bridge Street was the first street that ever had tar laid, and I think that was before the post office.
Now they were doing this post office exactly.
1906.
Yeah, they didn't. Didn't finish quite.
But it was a really busy town. This place was full of cheese factories and dairy factories. The history's sort of neglected, you know.
And what about the town now?
Here's our neighbour.
Hello, good morning.
Hello.
You're putting your sign out.
Coming out to do business. Look at you, dressed in brightest colours on this dull day. Look at your colours. They're really down-to-earth people, Taranaki people. They get on with things and they don't worry too much about aesthetics, but they laugh and they're a lot of fun. And unpretentious people, Taranaki people, they get on with the job.
As soon as she saw it, Maria fell in love with the old post office, with its high stud and embellishments. They remind her of her European childhood.
I grew up in a building 4 times bigger than this, but the same style, with a lot of room. So big, magnificent. You could feel the magnitude of the building, and big stairs and light. And
you have restored a bit of grandeur to the town.
Yes. I wish everyone who has a building like this should do what we did.
Yeah, well, it was our effort, and we threw everything we had at it, really. Not the best time with COVID. but
We're
still surviving. We're still doing well, and
And do you get
we're
many
happy.
visitors?
Yes, we do. We get a lot of internationals. We had a lovely couple from Washington State, in the US, last week.
Better let you get on with the baking.
Yep. I've got to warm the butter over here and melt the golden syrup into it as well, and so that all goes into the mixture here.
Is it a special recipe?
Well, it's a recipe. I think we can be grateful to RNZ for that recipe. Somewhere in the mix there was people who did the research, and we were lucky enough to benefit from it, and so of course Ukraine as well.
And where are the biscuits sold?
Local cafes. We've got our local lady down the road, Donna, in the coffee shack. She sells a lot, and little Bev buys a lot. She's a wonderful local lady, and
some of the locals just donate anyway without the biscuits.
That's right. We've got Mike in the museum. He digs in his pocket. He doesn't want the biscuits. So yeah, well, I mean, it's a generous town, and it's an interesting town, very interesting town, full of workers and really can-do people. Eltham. It's a fascinating place to have been dropped into, in a sense. Yes, but. These are very carefully packed by Maria, as you can see. Little gold insists on this packaging, and it's right because they don't go soft. They stay crispy. You can keep them forever.
And there's a little card telling the story of Helena.
Yeah. She baked them dry because they had to last, 4 months.
Oh, can I try one?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so they make the noise. And she baked them like that originally because the boys just put them in their pockets. They didn't have any bags or anything. They just put these in their pockets, and they went climbing up the mountain and
crunchy. They're tasty too, though. Even
these, the rejects.
David and Maria Hancock, the new owners of the old Eltham post office, restored with the help of many talented tradespeople, David told us. Maria left Romania as a refugee from the Ceausescu regime in 1986. That piece, produced by Sally Round, sitting next to me in the studio. We'll pop some photos of the post office on our website, along with a link to Relief Aid.
Hi, my name is Des. I live beside the Uara River, and you're listening to Country Life on RNZ National.
Now we're heading into a large wooden shed a few kilometres inland from Port Chalmers in Otago. It's the HQ for the HALO project. HALO's mission is to inspire and work with communities north of Dunedin to enhance, protect and connect with the landscape. Jonah Kitova-Hoof manages HALO's predator-free programs. Let's join Jonah and Cosmo Kentish-Barnes at the project's busy workshop area.
We've got a pile of stoke traps in front of us there. We've got our lure and stuff over here. We've got our workshop repair area and toxin storage over there. We've got all our scrub bar gear here. This is all of our NZ Auto traps, AT220s, and in this cupboard's where all of our AI stuff lives. Trail cameras, this is where we keep our Ubco electric bike, and over here is where we debrief, make plans and drink coffee.
And who else is here today?
Today I've got Alice Macklow with us, who is our Source to Sea project manager, and Kim Miller, who's our field team lead for all of our sort of detection and monitoring work.
And you've got Scout.
And Scout, yes, he's our freshly minted conservation dog. He's a recently fully certified possum scat dog through the Conservation Dogs program.
Yeah. When did you first start working on this project?
So I was actually the first employee of the HALO project in 2019. So the government's predator-free opportunity came around in 2018. At that point I was actually working on Waiheke with Auckland Council, and I was really heavily involved in putting together the predator-free project up there. And down here we had a TB outbreak in a few herds in the Mount Cargill area, which was pretty devastating in 2016. It was pretty hard on the farmers that were affected. And I guess that was a real wake-up call that possums were present and a big vector for these diseases, but also gave a really big injection from Osprey in terms of the work behind getting possums to low levels. So they've invested around about $5.5 million in our sort of 12,500 hectare project area, which is really, I guess, what we've leveraged to be able to step in behind them and try to work towards full elimination of possums across this landscape.
So how many traps have you put out?
We've currently got 4,000 plus traps on the ground now. Our key focus is possums, but also we've got a really large network of mustelid traps around Orokonui.
And you were saying before that some traps have been very busy.
Yeah, recently we just installed a new network of the self-resetting AT220s from NZ Auto Traps up around Karatane, and some of those have been out for about 3 months, and we had one that had 61 possums in that period, another that had 59, and 2 or 3 that had 58. So yeah, we got 2,159 of them from 238 traps over that period. And that's at 1 per 25 hectares, so pretty light in the landscape. So pretty stoked with those results.
Mm-hmm. And you're also trialling AI technology.
Yeah, we've I guess been pioneering this sort of low input model. How lean can we go and how big and to be effective? And really we've been needing the linkage between the traps and the new AI opportunities. So we've got a pilot of about 100 traps on the ground at the moment. But yeah, it's really exciting. I guess it's sort of the forefront of automation of pest control, really.
Now, Kim, you're servicing a trap.
Yeah, so this is one of our mustelid suppression traps, a Doc 200.
You wouldn't want to get your finger stuck in there.
No, it's happened to me once, and hopefully it will never happen again. So these ones, they're very large. They've got 2 trap mechanisms inside them, so that more than doubles your chance of getting 2 mustelids. So, you trap one and another one comes along and you hopefully catch that. Or a prey species, so a rat gets trapped and it brings in another mustelid.
So they've got an entrance at both ends?
Yep, an entrance at both ends. When you're setting them up, make sure they're stable. You want clear line of sight into the trap, so we clear a lot of the vegetation, rough up the dirt. We bait them with a range of different baits. So we've got like dried rabbit, fresh rabbit, fish. And over most of the year, we service the network once a month. And then over the sort of summer months, when it's stoat dispersal, so the young ones coming out of the nest and going to find their own way in the world. They're also very naive and get trapped easier, so we start servicing them on a 2-week sort of cycle. And most of the network is actually serviced by a bunch of volunteers, and I'm a bit sad I don't get to go do the best stoat lines anymore, there's a volunteer doing it now. Damn it.
So how many volunteer hours are recorded in a year?
More than 20,000 hours per year.
Gosh, that's a lot of volunteers.
Everyone wants to be involved in the predator-free sort of mission and restoring our biodiversity primarily. I think that's what people are after. They look out of their landscapes and they think there can be a better way because there can be. And that's, I guess, what we're pioneering is that way to do that, really.
Now, we're just looking inside one of these new traps and you're holding the AI trap node.
Yeah, so this is the aerial that connects it back up to our radio frequency network. And inside we have a camera, so it's got a little sensor and an IR bulb so you can see things during the night. That's looking down the sort of trap mechanism here. So when anything comes up the tree and is looking into the trap, we start getting pictures of it.
And the AI model then analyses the images, and if it recognises a target species, the trap will be triggered.
Yep, that's the theory of it, and then essentially we get an email pretty much in real time that the animal's been seen, hopefully dispatched, but if not, at least it's a really good detection array.
Has it cost a lot to set this new system up?
Yes, the automatic traps are a fairly big upfront cost, and then adding this monitoring gear and automated AI systems on top of it has sort of doubled the cost of each trap, but the information we get back has been really beneficial. So it's working out over time.
And Jonah, what do you love about this work?
That's a challenging one. I mean, it's deeply satisfying, I guess, on a personal level. Like you see birds coming back, which is, I guess, what excites me. But it's working with the community as well, seeing people that I guess traditionally wouldn't have been involved in conservation, and they come on board with things like TB, and then they're suddenly absolutely fizzing about birds and lizards on their property and doing planting, and it's kind of, I guess, that sort of watching the journey for others as well as being part of something that's bigger than yourself that I find really, really rewarding.
So where are we heading to now?
We're going to head to Mopanui, so it's a hill above the Orokonui Ecosanctuary. We've got traps all through there and some of our network of traps that are all connected up on that radio frequency and seeding back to us in the office. So it's a good spot to get a good view of our whole project area.
Excellent. Well, let's head out. Now, Kim, the area that we're driving through, is this all part of Halo Project's territory?
Yep. This is sort of right in the core of our territory, of our main zero density block that we're working towards for possums.
I just saw one of your traps on the side of the road.
This whole road network is traps every 200 metres or so, and most of them are serviced by South Roads.
So you're teaming up with local businesses?
Yeah, absolutely. They're providing us with lots of help the last year or two, so it's been great.
We have driven for about, 10 minutes, and now we're in the middle of the bush.
Just outside Orokonui Ecosanctuary, so we're getting the full benefit of the fence and all the pest control that's going on around it.
Now you're getting Scout all decked up.
Yes, he's getting all his finery on for work. He wears a GPS collar so we can sort of work out what sort of coverage he gets through the bush. He's got a high-vis jacket to wear like the rest of us, and as part of the sort of the dock requirements, they wear a muzzle as well most of the time.
We are heading into the bush and we're surrounded by some beautiful trees.
This is, I guess, sort of regenerating Kānuka broadleaf forest primarily through here. So we've got Horapito, we've got lancewoods, a range of coprosmas.
Mahui,
Kānuka broadleaf coming away. There's a bunch of ferns on the ground, astelias. And in some areas here we've got quite a bit of remnant podocarps and stuff left as well, so we've got a really good diverse range around here.
So this is one of your trap lines that we are walking on?
Yeah, this is a bit of Department of Conservation land here, and it adjoins with some private land where there's actually even more biodiversity. So yeah, this line's been out since I think about 2016, this one.
Made it. Whew. Now we've got to the top of this hill, and Rhys Miller, the Halo Project Director, is up here. Rhys, what a great spot.
Beautiful spot. Yeah, we're sitting on top of the world right now, aren't we? This is called Mopanui, so one of the main peaks in the area. Mihiwaka over to our south, Swampy Summit, moving around to the Silver Peaks, and we're looking right now, we're looking down into Waititi Village, Orokonui Village in the estuary here, and up to Karatane.
Lots of beautiful regenerating bush around us.
Yes, the Eco Sanctuary is sitting directly beneath us here, 300 odd hectares of regenerating forests, which is, I guess, the core of the Halo Project area and how the Halo Project came to be. Did you see the kaka when you were coming up the track?
No, I didn't, no. I was so exhausted I had tunnel vision.
Head down on the track.
That's right. Honestly.
Yeah.
When did the Halo Project start and how did it start?
So it started in 2013 in a very grassroots, organic manner with a host of local landowners and conservationists getting together and basically looking at Orokonui and saying, hey, we've got this gem here, but outside of the fence we've got sort of an environment that's basically overrun with possums and mustelids and predators. And if we want the beauty of Orokonui to expand beyond the fence, then we need to do something about enhancing the rest of that landscape.
So the project started small and now it's huge.
It reaches across 55,000 hectares. So we work with the predator-free work, but also the restoration work. So I think in the last 3 years we've worked with over 70 landowners to undertake restoration on their properties, primarily around wetlands and creeks. And of course the predator-free piece operates across that whole area as well. So the freshwater protection enhancement piece has been particularly beneficial and attractive to landowners. But also the predator-free work is really attractive because all landowners that we've come across recognise that invasive pests are not good for anything, whether that's biodiversity or for farming systems. So we now have a mustelid network across this whole landscape, and we also have the possum control network.
Now, we talked about AI-assisted traps earlier, and up here we can see a file transfer device that spreads signals around the traps.
We can go over and have a look at that. I think the FTP AI mesh network is a game changer for predator control. It's really going to enable us to hone our deployment of resources in areas that we need to.
On a national level, is it quite experimental trap technology?
It would be fair to say that we're the biggest users of this FTP network to date. We're working closely with that manufacturer and with a couple of other projects in the predator-free space around the country to use it, to trial it, to enhance it. Part of the predator-free landscape project architecture around the country is to test new designs, new technology in the field, and then to assist other projects so that we're gaining as a whole.
I do hear some people talk about their fears around AI, but certainly in this case, it's a great use of this technology and software.
Yeah, I think there's a few of us that are concerned about AI. But in this instance, I can only see the positive. The ability for these traps to lock out and not activate when there's something that we don't want it to catch is pretty remarkable technology. Particularly in areas like this where we have curious birds such as kaka. We don't want them to interact with the trap, so with this technology it enables those traps to say no, we're not going to activate.
Where does the funding come from to, cover wages and expenses?
Yeah, so initially the project was about a week of my time, just to get it going. Jonah was our first paid employee actually, and within his team he now has 6 people. And then on the Source to Sea, the freshwater restoration project, we had up to 8 people through the Jobs for Nature funding. But it is coming to an end. We're winding down from that now. So our funding comes from the likes of Regional Council and City Council, but Predator Free 2050 Limited is our substantive funder for the Predator Free work. And then we are currently working with some corporates to see if we can obtain some ongoing support, but it won't be at the same scale that we have had.
And so over the past few years, the Source to Sea project has been responsible for planting well over 200,000 plants in this area.
That's correct. So we've engaged with 70-odd landowners to do that. So this property down beneath us is Māori-owned, Orokonui Incorporated owned property. It's had 3 gullies fenced off, plus the estuary edge, and 50-odd thousand plants have gone into that property in partnership with that hapu. Over on the far-flung area there is Long Beach, which is behind a wee settlement, well known for its caving. In the dunes, the back dunes of Long Beach, 40,000 plants have been planted. So that was on public land. All of that area was planted via volunteers.
And I think we'll be going to a farm near Long Beach soon to meet a local landowner, John Chapman, who's got a Halo Project nursery growing on his land.
That's correct. So John is an active volunteer in the project, particularly in the predator-free side. He's one of our most active trappers as well, and a multi-generational farmer here. And his son Robert suggested we put the nursery there, so we've done that, which has been a very kind gesture.
Now we've arrived at John Chapman's farm, and this is where the Halo Project nursery is.
Yeah, so the team collects the seed, or we work with Puketeraki Runaka, who also have a seed collection program. Then they're either propagated up at Puketeraki or perhaps another commercial nursery, and then they come back here to be potted up and grown on. G'day, dog. G'day.
So Reese, what have you got growing here?
Oh, there's all sorts here. So with a variety of coprosma, pittosporums, of course, good old manuka, kanuka, wineberry, tikoka, broadleaf, there's some alaria, lancewoods, all species that are suitable for this coastal habitat. So basically species that will go into back dunes or into riparian environments.
Hello, I'm Cosmo. Now John, it's very kind of you to let the Halo Project use a shed and the yard here for the plant nursery.
Yeah, I suppose it worked out well. Of the shed we weren't using very much.
How did you get involved in the project?
I've always been sort of interested in conservation and things, and over the years I've done bits of QE2 and stuff, so it's quite good to be able to take it another step further with bigger areas, plantings, and of course the pest control work. There's no use having nice areas of bush around if there's nothing living in it.
And tell me about your farm. How big is it, and what do you farm here?
Well, actually, most of this farm's owned by my son. This piece here, I can still claim, but it's around about 400 hectares, and it's sheep and beef, predominantly sheep.
How important is this project for the district?
Well, I think it's quite important because the little bit of natural vegetation that was left was dwindling, and nothing was being done about the pests, particularly the possums were rampant. And with the Ecosanctuary next door, there's some really valuable birds up there which were going to come over the fence, and if there's nothing done with predators outside, then they didn't stand much of a chance. Now, I was quite chuffed the other day. I was walking through the other side of the farm and I saw a bush robin on the track, and that's the first bush robin I've ever seen on this farm in my lifetime. So it's a bit of a red letter day, and occasionally you see the kaka sort of come out of the Ecosanctuary. I don't think any of them live out this way, but you see them flying around.
Reese and the Halo Project's Source to Sea manager, Alice Macklow, take me down to the land behind Long Beach.
So we are at a dock nature reserve at Waro Wirewira. It's about 9 hectares, and since 2021 we have supported volunteers to plant 40,000 native seedlings here.
Gosh, what a huge job.
It is. It's been awesome to see the community get involved. We've had people from all walks of life, school children, community groups and businesses. We've had about 1,100 volunteers contribute about 4,000 hours, which is the equivalent of a full-time staff member for 16 months. So it's impressive.
And it gets quite boggy here, doesn't it?
It does. So this was once a wetland. I don't know a lot about it, but at some point the water would have come up to the base of the hill here, and then there was an earthquake or something a long time ago that changed this to a wetland. So we've planted species that suit this environment. Called tukutuku, which is fuchsia, tree fuchsia. Also exposed coastal plants such as nio and Veronica elliptica, which is shore hebe, and other plants like that. You can see harakeke here and tikoka, cabbage tree.
What do you think this planted area will look like in 10 or 20 years' time?
Well, I hope that it is bustling with birds and that there are sea lions birthing here, because there are sea lions using the pine trees here since 2010 to birth their babies, and they also use it as a creche site. They require this kind of habitat to hide from the males who chase them when they are looking after their pups or waiting to give birth. So this area will be hopefully well used by the Pakake sea lions.
Are you doing any trapping around here?
Yes, so the trapping was here before the plants, and I'm sure that there's a trap very close to us. I can't see one, but as it's in our zero density area, many of the landowners here will have their own trapinator possum traps in their backyard, and it will be part of the stoat network as well. So there'll be stoat traps throughout this area, and I'm sure there are 8220s throughout here as well.
And Reese, how long is the Halo project going to go on for?
We will be here as long as we can financially sustain it. One of the really important things that our communities are beginning to articulate to us is the likes of sea level rise and the effects of major weather events. For example, this community down here is flooded on a semi-regular basis. Corners of that community are. So our work is beginning to shift towards undertaking restoration and remediative works where we can of some of those coastal communities because they're particularly vulnerable. So we see an endless amount of work to be done as long as our community supports us and are there on the journey with us, which to date they have been.
That was Rhys Miller, Project Manager of the HALO project. And Cosmo was also talking to HALO's Alice Macklow, Jonah Kitova-Hoof, Kim Miller and farmer John Chapman. And that's us for now. It's great to hear your feedback and ideas for interesting future stories. You can let us know by emailing country@rnz.co.nz. Click follow on your app if you don't want to miss an episode of Country Life. And if you enjoyed the podcast, we'd love you to give us a plug on social media or tell a friend about the show. Click the share button in this app to send this episode to a friend.
The stories in this episode were produced and presented by Cosmo Kentish-Barnes and Sally Round. And in the studio production team today, David Knowles and William Saunders. Catch you next time.
Ka kite.